What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is Danny Rants. There's a lot of wild and crazy stuff going on, from the government shutdown, all these wild, crazy UFO sightings all over the place. Things are just becoming wild and more wild and more wild. And there's not a whole lot we can do as civilians. All we can do is spread the word or let people know what's going on in the world from what we see in our perspective and opinion. But there's a lot of people out there that's not going to pay attention to what's going on, or they don't want to turn the cheek, or let me rephrase that, they want to turn the cheek, or they don't really just want to believe that stuff that's going on in the world is actually happening. They don't want to leave their comfort zone and have to worry about stuff that's beyond their capacity, as I would say. Things have been getting it's wild. It's wild out here. My girl works at a hospital. I'm not gonna say where, but she works at a hospital. And last week she had 3 workers there, employees, that something happened and they snapped, and there was one that attacked another employee. There was a situation where another employee almost attacked a patient, and then there was a patient that came in, and he didn't have any known history of anything being violent, any type of anger issues, rage issues, or anything like that. And my girl was telling me about it, and it was really sad because of that whole situation and not knowing how things are going to develop from there going forward with the guy and his sister, the one that was assaulted. See, the situation was he was eating some Subway, and his sister was playing around with him and got a bite of his sandwich, and that upset him. That upset him to the point to where he lashed out and he pistol whipped his sister, his 18-year-old sister. He was older, not exactly sure of what exactly his age was, but from what was told to me, that he was a grown man, didn't have any issues, and something just happened and he snapped and he pistol whipped his sister for getting a bite of his Subway sandwich. Now, if that's not wild, I don't know what is. And with the other cases of the employees at the hospital that's just out of the blue are snapping and just doing stuff that's not in their, that they wouldn't be known to do. And I don't know if people are actually thinking about stuff like that, or if they're just not paying no attention. But with that and other stuff that's going on in the world, it's almost as if there's a switch being flipped, and certain people are just, they're lashing out. I don't know if it's intentionally, unintentionally, if they're consciously aware of what they're doing, but it's wild, man. It's really wild. And it's being a parent. My daughter, she's gonna be 14 next month, and remembering how things were growing up myself. I'm 45. Seeing how things are now, remembering how things were 10, 15, 20 years ago. You know, the stuff that we didn't have to worry about so much. You know, like now, you know, you have to be careful what food you buy for your kids, what foods you're eating, all the poison that's in the foods, the not so real meat, you know. How often can you go into a grocery store and buy a whole raw chicken, you know, something other than some chicken feet or some chicken legs? You know, it's not easy. Most places that I've seen, like Kroger's and Walmart, every once in a while they might have some chicken legs in there, some chicken feet, but like chicken breast on the bone, chicken thighs, we don't see a lot of that on the bone. It's like, you know, that they're saving that for the big wigs, as I would say, you know, real meat for the people and the elites and the people of authority that's up there, you know. That's just my opinion. I don't know what's going on. I just know that I try to be cautious on what I buy, you know, being a consumer in this day and age, you know, with everything going on and, you know, all these things coming to light, you know, it's making me second guess, you know, a lot of things that we was taught, brought up, and I don't want to be the person that falls into a category because of things that are being unfolded now. You know, eventually the truth will come out, and, you know, the light will always prevail in darkness. But with this Atlas thing coming, I know Moscow just had some sort of meteor or something that fell down over their city and seeded on a couple of channels. It's not really, a lot of stuff isn't really posted on the news. You know, there's stuff out there that certain people don't want other people to see. You know, that's called population control, along with, you know, them pushing out the vaccines and everything like that, which is another part of population control. You know, all those videos that was being surfaced after the fact that we had to quarantine and they were mandating all these people to get these vaccines, and if your child was in the hospital and you did not have the vaccine, you were not allowed to be in the hospital with your kid because of the fact of spreading illness, sickness, or whatever, you know. And luckily it's not like that no more. People was losing their jobs or unable to get jobs because they didn't get the vaccine. And, you know, after the vaccine was rolled out and people was getting it, you know, you've seen people dropping left and right, heart failure, heart attack, you know, that all these things, healthy people, athletes, news anchors, interviewers. I mean, like, you've seen the videos. If you haven't, I mean, I'm sure they're still out there somewhere, but, you know, I know my girl's mom, she got the vaccine, and it wasn't long after that she started experiencing really bad headaches, and she went in to see what was going on with her, and they found a massive tumor in her head, which was causing the headaches. And further examination of her, they found lumps and stuff in her breast, and they believe that's where it originated from, but where she wasn't really going to the doctor to get her annual checkups and everything like that. They're figuring it spread. But I know somebody else who got the vaccine and they was diagnosed with cancer, and that they beat it though, you know, which is a blessing. My homeboy Eric, you know, his mom Angie, they're really good peoples, you know, God-fearing peoples, hardworking people, and you know, a lot of that stuff was unfair to a lot of people. You know, I know a lot of people that passed away, you know, that were completely healthy. We don't know when our time is up. Only God knows. And you know, I'm not the healthiest person, as you can see. You know, I'm a big guy. You know, I have been doing better though, but that's beyond the point. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, if you're a healthy person, if you're an unhealthy person, if you're obese, if you're fit as a twig, you know, it's whenever your time is called, you know, there's nothing you can do about it. You know, just be right with God and make sure you tell your family you love them, because you never know when your time is up. That time can be at any moment. And, you know, if you was able to wake up this morning, you was blessed, because not a lot of people have that. There's people out there that didn't get an opportunity to wake up this morning, or you know, they woke up without their loved one. Something happened. It's, you know, that's just part of it is life. You know, growing up, getting old, and moving on. You know, that's who we are as a species. You know, we grow up, we learn, we create, we manifest. You know, we share and spread our knowledge that we learned, you know, so that way the younger generation can do something better with it, and hopefully change the world. But with who's running the world, it's kind of hard, you know, that will happen. But we can all have faith and hope and pray that, you know, the youth of our future are able to save what we know as Earth. But, you know, that's then, this is now. And the only thing we can do is, you know, we work hard, we try to do what's best for our family, and to help somebody if we can. You know, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. That was the 11th commandment that Jesus gave us in the New Testament. That there's not just 10 commandments, there was 11. Love thy neighbor as you love thyself was the 11th commandment that Jesus gave us. That was the last commandment that came out of the New Testament. A lot of people don't know that. Some people do, some people don't. But, you know, like I said, it's a crazy world. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. It's currently raining here in Knoxville. Got a lot of stuff going on. Currently in a rental car because somebody hit our car while we were on our way. I was on my way to take my girl to work, and somebody hit our car. They came around the corner a little bit too fast, too close to us, and nicked our car. So our car is in the shop. I'm in the rental car. We got it for about a week. They just started disassembling our car and working on it today. The car's been there since Monday, 3 days. So with all that going on and the government shut down, a lot of people aren't getting their EBT benefits next month. You know, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm one of them. Um, Hell, with society and economic budget that we have, with the inflation that's been happening consistently over the past couple of years, you know, things are almost to the point to where, you know, low income housing people, you know, are going to barely be able to afford to feed themselves or feed their families, you know. And it's like people are purposely trying to get rid of the lower class people, making it harder for them to be able to afford housing, harder for them to be able to purchase groceries for themselves and for their families. And, you know, buying a house is just absurd right now. The housing market is through the roof. And, you know, unless you know somebody or you have exponential capital where you can put down and get a place, or cheaper than that, build your own place, you know, it's rough out here, man. It's a dog eat dog world, and it's rough. It's really rough, you know, but that's nor here nor there. And, you know, we can only control what we have in our path, or what consists of our options. And, you know, we don't have many options. We have a lot of options, but not many options. And only few of you may understand that. You know, if you're trying to be in the legit legal form, there's so many options. Like, I didn't want to be one of those people that was going to go out and go looting the grocery stores and taking other people's stuff just because we didn't get our benefits this month. You know, we're lucky to be able to get those benefits. It's not something that I earn. Yes, we pay taxes. My girl pays taxes, you know, but our little $500 a month, you know, it barely lasts maybe 3 weeks feeding 3 people. And, you know, sometimes my daughter, she wants to take her lunch to school instead of eating the school lunch, because the school lunches have become trash. You know, she says she got peanut butter jelly sandwiches 3 days in a row at her school. You know, not in a row, but 3 days out of the week, you know. And it's, you know, the kids, they deserve a good meal, especially when they're in school for 7, 8+ hours, you know. And like I said, it's the youth of our future, and we should be trying to do everything possible to make sure that they're going to be okay, you know, that they're going to be successful. They have a path that they can go down, that they can be successful on, and not have to worry about nothing. But with society being the way it is, you know, it might be hard for them. But, you know, you work hard, you play harder to a point. But I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of concern out there. They say don't worry, you know, just let God take control. And that's true, but, you know, there's only so much that God's gonna do. And I've seen that personally. You know, there's so much we can do. There's so much that He will do. And that's just how it is right now. You know, I am a God-fearing person, but I also know that there's a lot going on in the world, and It shouldn't have to be like that. It should not have to be like that. But it is what it is, and it is what it ain't. So until then, everybody, thank you for watching. If you stay tuned, this is Danny Rants. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, guys, girls, stay safe, love your family, and do the right thing. Till next time, y'all, have a good one.